Seriously, you built that in your garage? Marisol's incredulous voice cut through the chatter of the lunchroom like a sharpened blade. She was perched on the edge of the bench, one perfectly manicured eyebrow cocked, her phone already out and primed to capture whatever spectacle she presumed I was about to provide. Across from her, Jenna and Raul exchanged smirks. I shifted the laptop on my lap, its stickers worn, the screen dimmed to preserve battery. Yeah, I said, voice low so only they could hear. Built it from scratch. Ran the code this morning. No bugs. I tapped a couple of keys. The program glowed to life, a swirl of green text scrolling past in rapid commands. My chest rose with a surge of pride. For months I'd poured my nights into learning Python and JavaScript, turning coffee-fueled evenings into lines of code that made simple robots dance or managed basic database queries. But to them it was juvenile tinkering, something to tease me about until the next fashion trend took their attention. Gee, it's cute, Raul muttered, voice dripping with condescension. Jenna laughed softly. When you get older, maybe we'll let you build our websites. If we still need one, she added. Marisol snapped a photo of my screen. I braced for the Instagram story upload, knowing that within seconds every follower would see the caption, "Nerd Alert." I clenched my jaw and closed the laptop, the snap of the screen echoing louder than any whispered giggle. I stood and slung my backpack over one shoulder. Whatever, I said. I turned away, but their laughter followed me all the way to the lockers. It was the kind of dismissal that left me seething, body tense, heart pounding. Instead of retreating, though, something flickered inside me, a flame of determination. I would show them just how wrong they were. It wasn't easy being the kid who stayed after school to scour Stack Overflow for hours, while everyone else chased after subtitles of the latest teen drama. But I had reasons, dreams, really, that transcended high school popularity. I imagined building platforms that changed people's lives, a volunteer matching service for seniors, a resource hub for struggling artists, maybe even an app to help patients track medications. Every line of code was a brick in the foundation of that future. From my bedroom desk, cluttered with empty energy drink cans and scribbled flowcharts, I'd tested algorithms until dawn. My parents knocked softly on my door sometimes, worried I was burning out. I'd close the laptop with a yawn and promise I was fine. Inside, though, I felt alive in a way I never did in gym class or cafeteria banter. When graduation came, I barely noticed the pomp and circumstance. I walked across the stage in my hand-me-down gown, eyes scanning the familiar faces, some cheering, most indifferent. Marisol and her friends were off to some elite private college, planning major internships, posting perfect group selfies. Me, I had scrimped together enough money for a coding boot camp, and then I scored a junior developer slot at a small startup. It paid barely enough to cover rent, but every paycheck felt like a reward for every minute I'd ever endured their mocking. Years slipped by in a blur of coffee meetings and late-night deployments. I'd learned to read the room, how to pitch features to stakeholders, how to translate technical jargon into marketing speak. Colleagues respected me, my inbox overflowed with bug reports I was proud to squash. But I rarely looked back at high school, except to chuckle at old group chats utterly abandoned by my former classmates. Then the email arrived. Subject line, "Help, from Marisol." My heart skipped. I hit mark as unread half a dozen times before opening it. "Hey, I know we haven't talked in years, but I'm in desperate need. Our company's website just crashed, major data loss. Our CTO is MIA. Please, can you help? I'll owe you big time." I frowned. Marisol was now executive VP at Tides and Currents, a fashion tech startup that offered personalized subscription boxes. She and Jenna must have networked like crazy. Even Rao was someone's director of business development. Somehow they'd landed VC funding, a swanky office downtown, flashy marketing campaigns, their vision of cool come to life. My finger hovered over the email reply. Part of me shouted, "Ignore it." Why rescue the generation that tormented me? Why wade into the chaos of a crash they caused? But another part, a quieter, more fulfilling part, recognized the opportunity. Code wasn't just lines on a screen. It was transformation. If I could fix their disaster, I'd prove to myself that my hobby was more than worthy. I typed back, "Hi Marisol, I can take a look. Can you send me the server access and a detailed error log?" Best Alex, I hit send before doubt could creep in. The next morning, I stepped into Tides and Currents' glass-paneled lobby, feeling oddly like Alice stepping through the looking glass. The decor was modern industrial. Exposed ducts, Edison bulbs, communal desks, strewn with half-empty matcha lattes. I spotted Marisol at reception, hair perfectly styled, posture immaculate. Her smile faltered when she saw me, like a curtain snagged on a hook. "Alex," she exclaimed, voice cautious. "Thanks for coming. Follow me." She guided me through a maze of desks into a conference room. Jenna and Raoul were already there, looking sheepish in tailored suits. The CTO, a lanky guy named Mitchell, was nowhere to be found. Raoul exhaled dramatically. "Our site went down last night. All customer data, gone. We've tried everything." He slid a USB stick across the table. "Here are the logs." I plugged it in. Screens of cryptic errors scrolled. My pulse quickened. Code was my element. The chaos of failure, the thrill of debugging. I opened the main server dashboard. The database backups had failed to complete 2 nights ago. RAID arrays were corrupted. There was no recent snapshot. They were staring down the barrel of lost orders. Angry customers, maybe even lawsuits. Marisol's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "We've invested everything," she whispered. "This could bankrupt us." I leaned forward. "Okay. First, breathe. Let me explain what happened." Over the next few hours, I became the calm in their storm. I sketched diagrams on the whiteboard. How to reconstruct the corrupted arrays, where to instruct their hosting provider, to roll back to an older snapshot, how to write a patch to automatically retry daily backups. Jenna and Raoul watched, as if witnessing a magician conjure a card out of thin air. Marisol sat back, arms crossed, absorbing every word with a mix of relief and awe. At one point, Raoul blurted out, "You speak a whole new language, man. I mean code. You're like some kind of wizard." I smiled, but inside, a quiet vindication bloomed. For years, I'd silenced their jibes with my silence and my late-night work. Now here, holding the thread that could pull their company back from collapse, I felt like I was finally at home in my own skin. When the last command executed, "Restore sut force directory," the screen refreshed. Rows of customer entries appeared, intact. Marisol gasped. Jenna let out a whoop. Raoul's jaw dropped so far I thought it might hit the table. "I don't know what to say," Jenna stammered. "Thank you." Marisol pushed back from the table. She glanced at me, eyes glistening. For a moment, I thought she was going to apologize for everything. Instead, she said, "I owe you more than I can say, Alex. If you'll let me." She tapped a finger against her temple. "Equity? Naming credit? Just tell me what you want." I paused. The old urge to roast her for every mocking comment flickered. But I shook my head. "You don't owe me. I just wanted you to see what I could do." She leaned in, voice gentle. "I see it now." Afterwards, walking out of their offices into the spring sunlight, I felt a lightness I hadn't known I was seeking. High school insults felt insignificant now, harmless sparks compared to the blaze of possibility that code offered. In their panic, they'd come to me. No longer just the kid who liked computers. I was the coder who'd saved their company. As I hailed a cab, I heard Marisol's voice behind me. "Alex?" I turned. She held her phone out. "You mind if I tell people you fixed us? Our investors deserve to know who really kept us afloat." I considered the weight of her request. Yesterday, that would have terrified me. Exposure, fame, expectations. Today, though, I realized something fundamental. My coding wasn't just a hobby. It was my voice, my contribution, the skill that could change lives. If owning that meant the world finally saw me, not as a punchline, but as a professional, then maybe I was ready to step into the light. I smiled. "Go ahead," she beamed. And as the cab whisked me away, I watched the skyline tilt and shimmer, imagining the countless lines of code waiting to be written, lines that could turn uncertainty into triumph, solitude into recognition, laughter into respect. And I knew that this was just the beginning. The next morning, my phone erupted with notifications. LinkedIn alerts scrolled by like stock tickers. Marisol's post praising my code wizardry had gone viral, racking up thousands of likes and comments. Investors, recruiters, even tech bloggers were tagging me. I blinked at the screen, coffee mug trembling in my hand. Part of me wanted to crawl under the covers. The other part, one I recognized from every late-night debugging session, pulsed with excitement. I slipped into my home office, A cramped spare bedroom, where cables curled like vines and empty pizza boxes formed precarious towers. My laptop booted up, and the post's comments poured in. Need to hire this guy. CTO material. Teach me your ways. Even Marisol's followers were chiming. Is he single? I shook my head and laughed. High school me would never have imagined this. A soft ping signaled an email from Dylan Cho, lead partner at Meridian Ventures. His subject line, "Let's talk partnership." I opened it to find a succinct note. Alex, congratulations on saving tides and currents. We'd like to discuss a strategic investment into your tech services and a seat on their board. Are you available this afternoon? Dylan, my heart thundered. A board seat? Equity? I reread the line over and over. Their world and mine, once worlds apart, were merging. At 2 p.m., I found myself standing in a sleek conference room at Meridian's offices, glass walls overlooking downtown. Dylan and two associates smiled across the table, polished and confident. Alex, what you did for tides and currents was more than heroic. Dylan began. You prevented a catastrophe, but more importantly, you demonstrated leadership and vision under pressure. That's why we want to back you. We see potential for a new venture, something driven by your creativity and insight. I swallowed. Thank you. I'm honored. But to be honest, I've never run a company. I code. I solve problems. Dylan exchanged glances with his partner, Priya. She leaned forward, fingers steepled. That's exactly why we need you. You understand technology, yes, but you also understand people. You explained complex fixes in plain English to non-technical executives. That skill is rare and invaluable. We want to help you build a consultancy, or perhaps an app ecosystem. We'll provide capital, mentorship, infrastructure. You code, we handle the rest. My mind raced back to every time Marisol sniffed at my garage experiments, to Jenna's jokes, Raul's sneers. Now here I was, being courted by venture capitalists. It felt surreal. I nodded slowly. I appreciate the offer. Can I take a day to think it over? Of course, Dylan smiled. We'll be in touch. That evening, I walked the city streets, phone in pocket but mind adrift. The neon glow of storefronts reflected on wet pavement. I thought of my parents, who'd always worried I'd never come out of my shell. I thought of my high school self, hunched over glowing screens, fingers clumsy but determined. And I thought of Marisol, proud and poised, now on the other side of the table, asking what I wanted. When I got home, I poured a glass of water and sat at my desk. On the whiteboard, I'd sketched the backup recovery plan just days ago. To the side, I wrote next steps, underlined. I weighed my options. Join Meridian-backed venture. The security of funding, a team to handle marketing and sales, a clear path to scale. Go freelance. Keep independence. Pick projects that align with my passions, maintain creative control, but face uncertainty and the grind of client acquisition. Hybrid, consulting plus equity. Offer services to tides and currents and others under contract, while building a small in-house product for seniors as I'd always envisioned. I tapped my pen against the desk. The truth settled quietly. I didn't want to abandon the spark that drove me to code in the first place. I craved impact more than headlines. The next morning, I drafted an email to Dylan. Hi Dylan, thank you for the generous offer. After reflecting, I'd like to propose an alternative. I'll form a small tech consultancy focused on mission-driven projects. Meridian Ventures would provide seed funding and strategic guidance. In turn, Meridian would receive equity in both the consultancy and any products we develop. I will also commit to serving as CTO for Tides and Currents on a part-time basis to ensure their platform thrives. Let me know what you think. Best, Alex. I hit send, heart pounding again, this time with anticipation rather than doubt. Meanwhile, Marisol's company was rebounding. Their CTO returned sheepishly, only to find the rebooted site running smoother than ever. The board demanded to know who orchestrated the recovery. When Marisol credited me, heads turned. Board members whispered about bringing in the new Alex for future projects. Jenna approached me one afternoon in the cafeteria, voice lower than a confession. You really did it, she said, eyes wide. I didn't believe you could. She hesitated, then smiled. Can I buy you coffee sometime? I want to pick your brain about coding. My initial instinct was to retort about keeping my troublemaking, but I softened. Sure, I replied, and scribbled my number on a napkin. Beneath the surface of old impressions, new connections were forming. Weeks passed in a whirlwind of meetings, contracts, and planning sessions. The consultancy, dubbed Lighthouse Labs, took shape. I hired 2 junior developers, Sarah, a steady problem solver who reminded me of younger me, and Marcus, whose quirky UI designs injected color into our work. We signed our first client, a nonprofit that connected retired teachers with volunteer tutoring programs. Suddenly, that dream I'd coded in my bedroom was real. Tides and Currents remained a key partner. With my coders team augmenting their in-house devs, we rolled out new features, a personalized style quiz, powered by machine learning, dynamic inventory alerts, and a mobile app that sent curated box suggestions. Their subscriber base grew by 40% in a quarter. Marisol called it nothing short of a miracle. One evening, she invited me to their revamped office for a celebration. We toasted over sparkling cider in the rooftop lounge, city lights twinkling below. "Remember when you were the kid in the garages?" she said, raising her glass. "It's incredible how life flips the script." I smiled, remembering the lunchroom bench, the Instagram mocks. "Yeah," I said softly. "But I'm glad I kept writing code." Jenna nudged me. "To Alex, the guy whose hobby saved us all." We clinked glasses. In that moment, years of doubt and derision dissolved. My journey, once solitary and uncertain, had unfolded into something communal and powerful. A year later, Lighthouse Labs had moved into its own open-plan office. Our walls bore whiteboards, crisscrossed with flowcharts, team photos, deadlines scribbled in colored markers. We celebrated wins with pizza Fridays and hackathons that ran into the early dawn. I took a moment one afternoon to walk through the workspace, greeting Sarah and Marcus as they fixed integration issues for a hospital appointment scheduling app. I spied a wall covered in sticky notes, ideas for new products, a mental health chatbot, a green energy tracking dashboard, an educational game for kids recovering from injury. In the corner by the coffee machine, a framed photo from high school peeked out. Me younger, standing by a makeshift robot I'd built in shop class, beaming. I'd stapled it there as a reminder of how far passion could take you. A soft ping on my phone drew me back to the present. Marisol had sent a message. "Hey Alex, we just hit our 1 millionth subscriber. Thank you again for everything. Would love to celebrate with you next week. Drinks on me." I typed back, "Congrats! Would love to, let's catch up." Then I slipped my phone into my pocket and exhaled. The office buzzed around me, laughter, keyboard clicks, brainstorming chatter. It felt like home. I thought of the girl who laughed at me in the cafeteria, the polished exec who begged for my help, the investor who saw more than code, and finally the team I'd built around a shared belief that technology, when wielded with empathy and creativity, could change lives. I closed my eyes for a moment and smiled. High school me would be proud because I hadn't just built websites. I'd built a future.